It's back yet again. It's been a while since we covered this series. It feels like it's been a while, but Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT action is back to Apex Racing TV. Welcome along to the Phillip Island circuit located in southern Victoria in Melbourne, Australia. It hosts today round number 6, season 9 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT series, of course. All coverage on Apex Racing TV from myself, Jonathan Simon, on hand. Welcome along. Daniel Leet is alongside me in the commentary booth. Sabuli Kuma behind the scenes in production. And Daniel, we have an interesting race format coming up today, of course. The second time we head to it this season. It's the 2 20-minute race sprint format. And boy, do I love this kind of racing.
Yeah, good evening, Jonathan, and all the viewers tuning in. Look, the 2020 formats are absolutely fantastic. We had an absolute ripper last time out at Monza for the first of three this season, and the racing out there was fast and frantic, and I expect nothing less than that again.
Yeah, I like how you coined it 2020. I didn't think about that till you just said it right then. There are the track details up on screen. It's a 4.5 kilometer circuit, of course. Just under 3 miles, depending on your units of choice. Now, track temperature is very cold here, Daniel, but of course, Phillip Island, now we were discussing this before the race, I had doubts over whether or not it was a good racing circuit for overtaking, and then Samuli told us that he had a race just the other day that they broadcasted, and they loved the racing here. They thought it presented a lot of opportunities for good racing.
Definitely. I mean, the circuit itself lends itself to a lot of good overtaking opportunities. You can get a fantastic run through that final corner of turn 12. You can basically get a lot of two-wide action all the way down through turns 1, 2, and then set up for a really solid pass down into the hairpin at Honda Corner there. So I think all these guys, a lot of Australians in this series, and they know how to get around this circuit. It's going to be fast and frantic action, and I've seen it similarly in other categories. It's been absolutely chaotic out there, but I'm sure the guys will know where they can and can't pass.
Yeah, most certainly. And you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, of course, it is very windy at the moment as we flick forward to the race. And that just is because, I mean, look where we're located here. That's the Bass Strait over the horizon. Pretty much a few hours on a boat, you'll be in Tasmania. Now, it's a rolling start. We'll have a look at our grid for today's event for the first time here. Of course, this season, the series switching to GTEs. Justin Wallace on pole position alongside Craig Edwards. It's good to see a variety of teams there in our top few positions. Danny Davison will join Adam Gardner on the second row. Now, I look down the order here, and no disrespect to any other race or any person this season, Daniel, but that's the most talented top 10 I've seen qualify in the series so far.
Yeah, very reminiscent of what we saw last season out. A lot of class acts up the front there. They've got to keep an eye on Craig Edwards. Matty Allison's been very strong since changing across to that GT3s, and I guess you really can't count out Lee Vandenberg there, but I mean, what do we have to do? Justin Wallace still, again, up on front, and he's going to be a hard one to stop, I think.
Yeah, and then we cycle through the rest of the field. Matt Morris, not the best of qualifying performances for him, and it's quite an extraordinary field here. I see 37 cars ready to race. Race control, obviously, of course, in this series. Now, I'm looking for Cody Bird, who won last time at the Circuit of the Americas, but I don't see him on the grid, Daniel. So I guess he's probably got a Sunday night at the pub or something.
Yeah, it could either be that or there is a second split also for tonight. So potentially with being how quick this circuit is and the fact that all these cars are running a fixed setup, may not have quite got the cut, but we know that the guys, as far as quality of lap time, probably very competitive. So for the strength of field that they do get, wouldn't surprise me if maybe not quite making the cut tonight, but going well, we should potentially see him back on the grid again next week.
And I haven't really seen, I mean, there's a manual safety car this season. We haven't seen it that often, unless things have changed, of course, but it's good to see that the driving standards have been pretty good so far in the series. And of course, a GT series like this, promoting good racing, is just going to attract even more drivers. And I'm quite scared to say that, Daniel, because we already have an abundance of them filling in 2 splits.
Well, you do, but I think with the great racing that we do see here, it certainly attracts a lot more drivers to come to it. If you look at some other categories that are doing, take for instance the AOSC, they've had a lot of interest in that over the last years, and that series has grown for leaps and bounds, and there's definitely no reason that the guys here with AMF can't repeat that and do the same. You quickly touched on about the safety cars as well. We've only seen it one time out this season, and that was at the Circuit of Americas, and it's the only time it's been out there so far. And touch wood, and we'll give an obligatory knock on the wood there, that it only comes out for the one time this season as well.
Yeah, there are some other series where it just appears all the time. It starts to just becoming a bit annoying, of course. But nevertheless, though, the drivers head through this middle sector. They made their way past... Is this Hayshed right now, I think, Daniel? I'm just struggling to... It is, yep. We're heading over to Lukey Heights. And this is going to be a good overtaking spot here into MG, isn't it?
It'll certainly present an opportunity, especially on the run. Once you get up over the crest of the hill, as you see the guys working their way up into now, if you can get out wide, you can take a really big lunge down into turn 10, which is pretty tight right-hander, but it does leave you vulnerable for the run through turns 11 and back onto the front straight through turn 12. So I think if there is anyone having to move down there, if you don't get the door closed hard and fast there, you're likely to open yourself up for another attack.
Well, they're ready to go here. As we said, it will be 2 20-minute races coming up in our sprint format. It's the second of 3 times we'll have it for this season. What a thrilling event it was at Monza when we had this for round 2. Now, Justin Wallace is ready to floor it to commence round 6 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series. We go green from Phillip Island, and what a rapid getaway from Wallace.
That was a fantastic jump from Wallace there, really opening up the door. Also looks like Danny Davison trying to get down the inside of Craig Edwards into turn 1 as well, so that could be another interesting fight all the way.
Goodness gracious, the two got ever so close through there. There's the elite racing car of Danny Davison trying to make that off-camber line through the southern loop work. It's just never going to work there. The camber doesn't help at all. Now we have one driver having a couple issues down the back of the pack. It looks like a clean start for the moment. Now into Honda for the first time. Adam Gardner having a peek here on Danny Davison. That almost ended in turmoil.
Yeah, there's a big move early on cold tyres, but that's one of the spots we're going to see a lot of passing throughout the whole race tonight. A couple of guys further back, Matty Allison working very hard to get back up the field in the BMW. He's got his teammate Lattimore in front of him. Harley Haber, a new entrant. We don't see it. Looks like a couple of cars going off wide there, but
Haber, of course, racing in the V8. There's a lot of cars here off the racetrack. This is one of the Porsches there, the 966. Matt Morris, who started from just outside the top 10, already having issues. And this is what happens, Daniel, when you start in the mid-pack.
It's very easy to do. These guys are not going to want to give an inch, especially through the middle portion of the race, but able to get back up. Doesn't look like a lot of damage on the car there, so he should be right to keep going. Chris Hullett coming under all sorts of fire there from Jeremy Franklin and the JPS Goodyear car, and some more passing going on into turn.
Lattimore here. Oh, goodness, alongside Haber and the Porsche. Porsche right behind, searching for the inside into the southern loop. But Haber's a driver who's ever so quick and experienced in the supercar, isn't he, Daniel? Good to see him racing the GTs.
Yeah, he predominantly runs a lot of the V8, but great to have him come on board with the Mark 1 guys and running the Porsche. And if he's as quick as he is...
Sorry to interrupt there. One driver, Allison, just came, I think just missed his braking point completely. And goodness me, Daniel, that I think gave us both a fright.
Yeah, Harbour cleaned up again. That's the third one from Race on Oz that's collected him there, so that's not a great run for him. But yeah, I was saying he's looking to do very well, and unfortunately not probably going to be the night he wants in
Well, Ryan Kolstad and Race Control will be looking at that for sure. Here's Fieber now down the order in 16th after some incidents. I'm not sure if that BMW looks clean or not. This is MG right now, the tight right-hander. And everybody will now need to form up through the final couple of corners here. Turn 11 and 12 at Phillip Island. It's so easy to run wide, isn't it, here, Daniel, through turn 12 if you just get the line wrong. And if you just... It's like Indianapolis turn 4. If you're just offline by just a touch and the dirty rubber, you can end up in the wall.
Well, it not only compromises your run through the corner there and potentially in the wall, but it damages your run down to turn 1. As you can see, Pat Geller getting a little bit away from Matty Morris in that Porsche. But that whole complex through turns 10, 11 and 12, basically one line. And the guys really going to have to pick where they want to go. But Geller coming under a bit of fire here. We'll keep an eye on that. As you can see, a penalty for the 772. That's Matty Allison in that race on Oscar, so that will be as a result of contact there with Harley Haber, I do believe.
Yeah, that was at turn 4. This corner here, Honda corner as it's known by the fans. And for Matt Allison, I think well deserved. We didn't get to see a replay of it, but it just looked like he came in way too hot. And I sort of had an eye on it, so unfortunate for him. But this is the battle for the lead, nevertheless. Porsche versus Ford versus BMW. It's Wallace, Edwards, Davison, and Gardner here. The top 4 separated here by less than a second.
Yeah, throw a blanket over these guys. Nothing in it at all. And Justin Wallace going very defensive down into turn 10. They're able to get a great run out, keeping that position up ahead. But look for Craig Edwards in that super slippery forward to try and get down the inside into turn 1, maybe even crisscross out into turn.
He's going to look. He's just not close enough anyway, but you got to keep the pressure on, you know? That's where you can force Wallace offline. And if you're going to have to make someone, sorry, let me repeat that. If you're going to force someone to make a mistake at Phillip Island, you just have to sort of remain on the rear end of them. But I think Davison here may have a peak on the foot heading into Honda corner.
Yeah, he thinks better of it, stays on the inside, but these guys all nose to tail through this complex. They got a lap car just ahead of them. That's the car of Paul Wood there, so I'll keep an eye on that going through. But these guys, absolutely nothing separating them.
We ride on board with the elite racing driver. Is Hayshed coming up, and then of course the left-hander of Lukey Heights, where it's a huge drop here to MG. Plenty of elevation change at Phillip Island. And then here's that difficult turn 11. God, I don't know about you, Daniel, but I just hate this corner, turn 11. It's so sluggish.
Well, it can be, depending on the gear you get in. You do really need a short shift to get the most out of it through turn 10 and keep the traction on in these cars, especially the V8. But with the GTEs, they do have the 8 traction controls. You can see Craig Edwards trying to get down the inside, might actually get this one done. Oh. That's a fantastic onside view.
Barges his way past Justin Wallace here for the first time, and there's you can see the track map on the right hand side of the screen. There's some lap traffic in the way. It looks like that's Aaron Specchio, the privateer. Now they won't catch up to him anytime soon, but God, he just shoved his way past into the lead there, Craig Edwards.
Yeah, it's a very forceful move there and really wanted to get on with this. So that does promote him up to 1 spot now into the lead. But just behind that, you still got Adam Gardner working on the back there of his teammate in the other BMW. As we see Hayden Veld having a big accident. That's down into turn 3, down through Stoner corner there.
Yeah, unfortunate for Hayden Veld. And here's the replay of the incident. Talk us through it. Oh, goodness. That was even before Stoner corner. Wow. I mean, I don't like to laugh, but Jesus. Somehow, that's going to be on iRacing out of context. Somebody clip that, put that on iRacing out of context on Twitter. That's just hilarious. Jesus, Hayden Veld. I'm sure he'll have a laugh at that.
Yeah, not going to enjoy that. Looks like he got wide coming on the exit of turn 2 there. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, that car went firing off with the netcode. But up front, Craig Edwards starting to extend a little bit of a gap now, 0.4 of a second over Danny Davison sitting in 3rd. And actually, if anything, the BMWs may be falling off just a touch here. The gap opening up to about 0.7 of a second for Davison, and Gardner not too far behind. Martin Crisp still getting back into it.
I spent the entire 20 seconds just laughing at the crash there, Hayden Veld. I feel sorry for the guy. He was he's had some better events in the past, though. I'm sure he'll find the lighter side of that. This is where it occurred, on the run to Stoner Corner. When was it named Stoner Corner? How many years ago?
Oh, geez, I couldn't tell you. I think it was probably about 5 or 6 back when Stoner, just before he finished up, I believe, in the MotoGP. But I don't think there was anyone that could hold a candle to him with the back end sideways through that corner. It was pretty phenomenal to ride into that kid.
Yeah, I like that. Always nice to have a backstory to a corner. This is David Miller on the screen, or it was. We switched to Jackson Walls, who's in a scrap with Pat Gallo. Now, who's behind Pat Gallo? Is that Matt Morris? Has he served his penalty yet, Matt Morris? I don't think... No, wait. Did he have a penalty? Or was that... That was... Sorry, I'm getting him mixed up with Matt Allison. Excuse me. Matt Morris just had a poor start. And he's having a look up the inside into MG. Whoa, there's a car off into the barriers in the background. That looks like Benjamin Faulkner.
Yeah, it's a very easy one to do, especially over the top of the hill. If you do run it wide, it doesn't take much, but it looks like we've got another culprit there, Jason Cozzi, in that one as well, so we'll have to keep an eye as to what's going on there. But the battle up front still heating up. Craig Edwards coming under all sorts of attack at the moment from Justin Wallace behind him. And if anything, it might be Danny Davison getting back into it with these two scrapping ahead.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice to see a tough tussle here for the first position. So the Ford here, I'd assume, are we saying the Ford is quicker in the straight line then? Or am I wrong to assume that?
No, I'd certainly assume that. Based on what we saw, I mean, it is a different circuit at Coda, but the Ford very quick around that area. Actually took the BMW a long while to get into its run through there, and I think we're going to see probably the same again tonight, but the BMW certainly probably a little bit better on its tyres overall, but realistically, yeah, the Ford is the car to be in this season by the looks, although having said that, I mean, Justin Wallace not too far behind in that BMW, in the Porsche.
Now, we're not expecting a pit stop because of our race format, of course. We'll have two 20-minute races. This is race one this evening here, Sunday night. And in our other race formats, whether you've tuned into our 45-minute races or our 90-minute endurance races, those are where our compulsory pit stops are required. This is Justin Wallace searching for the lead again. Oh, shove your way past the same way Edwards did to you. But Edwards, God, he's just so confident, so quick through turn one. And look at the lap times on the left-hand side of the screen. Almost identical with your top five.
Yeah, I think Justin probably got a little bit jaded there going on the inside. Didn't quite get the run that he needed to help him through there. But Craig Edwards just holding solid on the racing line and getting the most out of that car. But as you say, absolutely nothing between those two. Danny Davison's got Adam Gardner still all over the back of him. That little fight, third and fourth, still scrapping up. And actually, if anything, while they continue on, we might even see Jeremy Clark in that Riot Racing Porsche get involved in this in the not too distant future as well, as we just tick over 10 minutes through this race.
And there are all the different manufacturers on screen on the left-hand side. A lot of Porsches. No Ferraris, though, in your top 10. Oh, is that Gardner? I thought he might have had a rear lock-up, but he's just taking a much tighter line through the corner. Lattimore is off the racetrack at Lukey Heights. Lattimore's had an issue here, and it'll be interesting to see what has happened to our second-placed Ford driver. But the race on Oz driver of Stephen Lattimore, his race taking a turn for the worse. Here's a replay on screen.
Yeah, it looks like he gets a pretty good run up in through turn 9 there into Lukey Heights. The back end just comes around on him, so nothing untoward there. I don't think he's done anything as far as issues with throttle or braking through that Porsche. It just seems like the whole back end just lost it.
And this is where the fixed setup comes into play, you know, for this GT series is Lattimore possibly could have adjusted to that had he been able to adjust the setup, but you just have to sort of adjust your style to the car, which is the beauty of the series.
Yeah, and I mean, these setups aren't going to be suited for every driver out there. It's the guy who can get on top of it and adapt his style the most that seems to get the best out of it. And we know the guys up the front very, very good at that. It's with a slow-moving Porsche. Just on the outside of frame now, can't see who that actually is dropping down the order, but Lattimore just getting past there. But yeah, for the drivers that can adapt, certainly can get themselves into some great racing.
Yeah, most certainly. It looked like a lap car, wasn't it? All the way down in... I'm not sure if that was Aaron Specchio or not. It says someone... No, it could be P25? I'm a bit confused at the moment, so we'll figure out who that was. Oh, there's a couple of cars off the racetrack at Lukey Heights. Nevertheless, Jackson Walls, haven't seen much of him this race, but he's having a lonely event in P Lucky 13, depending on which country you're from. Unlucky in others. Back to your lead, though. Look at the track map. The top five are pretty much in their own lead group, and it looks like Edwards is just peeling away here from Justin Wallace, who started from pole position. And like I told you, I mean, I'm surprised the top 10 aren't all stuck together. Remember I told you, Daniel, that the top 10 was like one of the most talented top 10 starting grids we had in some time. And look what it's produced for the racing anyway in your top 4 positions.
Yeah, I'm actually very surprised to see a gap of about 6 seconds between Gardner there and not sorry, Clark and Garrett Cousins there. So not too sure what's happened there, but yeah, as you say, top 10, really an all-star class there. It's a bit of a who's who, and really surprised within 13 minutes that we've had as much of a gap open up.
And Wallace has got only a few more minutes to go here, just over 5. Just over 6, I should correct myself. He's got plenty of time here to reel in Edwards. He gets a better run, doesn't he, out of turn 11. This is going to carry a lot of momentum through the final corner and onto the main stretch for the Race on Oz driver. Wallace screaming up to at least 270 kilometers an hour here on the main straight. Now, you saw Edwards there try to break the toe early on the straight, and he knows he's already on the back foot after the poor exit.
Yeah, it was interesting to see him try and pull down in towards the inside line. I think that, if anything, maybe compromised him just a touch in overall top speed there. But Wallace not quite able to get it done with the top end of that Porsche. So a couple more laps, if he can get really close and get a solid run through that 10-11 complex, he should be in good position to get a move done here. But just missing about a couple of tenths of a second here. The gap has closed down to 3 tenths now on the turn and run into 4. But yeah, just lacking a little bit of that top end horsepower that he needs to get it done.
God, he looks quick, though, through the middle sector. It's just very difficult to overtake here. I saw Jake Burton pull off a good move in the Supercars E-Series on Josh Muggleton through here, though. He just sort of did... It wasn't really a bump and run. I think Muggleton just had a poor exit out of Siberia and then ended up making a slight bit of contact with Burton. So it can be done. You just need to get physical. That may be what Wallace is considering. Goodness gracious, if you stick your hand out of the Porsche, you could touch Edwards' rear suspension there.
Yeah, absolutely nothing in that. The guy's working very, very hard on getting the most out of the brakes in these cars. But we'll stick on board here with Wallace. He's got a fantastic run through that final corner, and the draft should carry him right up into...
Where's he going to go, for the inside or the outside? Edwards places his car in the middle of the racetrack, asking Wallace, if you're going to go somewhere, you're going to tell me where you're going to go. He goes for the outside. Wallace now searching for the switchback, but as long as Edwards can hold the inside line through the southern loop, he'll be okay. Brilliant defensive driving from Craig Edwards.
Yeah, but don't count out Danny Davison. He's just jumped right into the middle of this mix here from that run through turns 1 and 2. For these guys, you still see Wallace going down the inside. Davison now closing right up on the back of Wallace, and he's really wanting to get up and potentially even take the lead here if he can do it with the action from the 2 and...
Yeah, so let's hope Adam Gardner can reel himself into the group. But what's going to help Gardner is, as Edwards takes a trip through the grass, what's going to help him is that the more these guys slice and dice, the more that's going to allow Gardner an opportunity to claim a podium for race number 1 this evening here in the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series. Now, we should get a couple more, or a few more laps in, at least 3 or 4 more laps. It's about a minute and a half, just under, for a lap around the island. But Davison... God, I'm nervous now, Daniel. After this, I don't know if Edwards will be passed, but we'll see if Davison can claim the 2nd position.
Yeah, I don't know. As long as Edwards can keep that car in the positions he's doing, he should be able to retain that gap. You see Wallace with another strong run down into 1, but look at Davison getting up there. He's really pushing hard on this, and I think he's going to be the one to apply all the pressure. And if anything, he's probably in the best spot of the house, trying to apply that extra force on the back of Wallace. Wallace, the meat and sandwich here, trying to either go ahead or, unfortunately, potentially looking to drop a spot if he's not too cautious.
Edwards gets a thrilling drive coming out of the southern loop, and it just helps him here into Honda corner. You don't want to outbrake yourself into here. Such a thrilling camera shot, isn't it? You don't know if someone's hit the corner or not, just due to the cambered nature of this racetrack. More camber available here at Siberia. Hug the inside, use all of that angle. Get you the best run out of the middle sector, heading towards the final sector as we go through Hayshed, Lukey Heights, MG, yet another time. Who will win race number 1 this afternoon? Will it be anybody in this top 3? Will it be Adam Gardner in 4th? What if all 4 collide and it ends up being Jeremy Clark in the 5th position? You just never know.
No, that's exactly it. I almost thought Craig might have locked a wheel up there on the run down into 10, but gets away with it A little further back, there's still some solid scraps going on with Dave Miller, Chad Hearn, and Gary Cousins. Scrap for 6th, 7th, and 8th still ongoing, but don't really want to get away from this fight as we see Wallace down the inside again. Actually switching to the outside, trying to set up for a great run down the outside. And I think he might actually get this.
Wow! Alongside each other through turn 1. Davison also having a look here for the 2nd position. Justin Wallace back into the lead after he started the race on pole position. 3 manufacturers fighting for it with only a couple laps remaining here at Phillip Island. Let's see if anyone's going to make a move into Honda corner. Around the outside goes Edwards. And, oh, goodness gracious, Daniel, who's going to get the best run? They're going to have to form up through Siberia.
Yeah, not too sure here. Looks like Wallace actually going a little defensive at the last moment through turn 4, which gives him a breather, but Davison still working there hard on the back of Edwards in front of him. But all 3 of these guys absolutely separated by nothing, and it's been great showing to see those different strengths and weaknesses for all 3 cars around this circuit.
Come on, somebody lunge up here. We haven't seen the leaders lunge into, I say up here, down here, into the tie-breaking zone of MG. Adam Gardner, well, you can see through that camera shot, he's just peeling away here from the top 3 who are just, probably you could say, tight gripping the wheel even, Daniel. They'll be that hungry, and that's the worst thing you could do. You need to be relaxed in this situation. The final lap begins. Who will win race 1 of our 2-race sprint format for the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series? Through the southern loop they go yet again. Wallace holding the inside line. Who holds up Edwards? Who holds up Davison? They're all going to have to make the move into Honda corner.
Well, we've only really got 2 spots left for a move to be done, as you say, down in the Honda corner where the guys are coming now, getting a good run through Stoner. Next one after this will be up into turn 10, so we'll keep an eye to see Edwards trying to get down the inside, not quite close enough, but Wallace doing everything he needs to do right now to try and retain this lead and get the first win.
Oh man, it's going to go down as Daniel just said. MG's another opportunity. Gary Cousins on screen. He's alongside, looks like David Miller for Redback Racing. And Gary Cousins slots himself into 6th. So good pass there from Gary Cousins. Back to the lead though. They're heading into MG. You can see on the track map. And they opt to keep it clean. I don't think they're going to be able to drag race each other across the line, although it's going to be close here. Edwards in the Ford will have some good straight line speed, but it looks like Justin Wallace will cross the line, most likely receive the checkered flag. Yes, it's confirmed. This is the final lap, and Wallace wins race 1.
That was a thrilling win for him there, great result, and to the top 3, actually top 4, that was absolutely fantastic. Those last couple of laps there, the top 3 really gave us something to cheer home about. Gary Cousins looks to just get across the line, I think, to retain that 6th spot, only just over Miller though, so that was went down right to the wall.
Oh man, I want to know the gap when we look at the results later on. It looked like just a hundredth of a second there. We watched Jason Dullahan coming home in the 14th position. Sanfilippo rounds out the top 15. They were just behind Martin Crisp and Pat Gallo. But man, let's get a breather now, Daniel. Jesus, I mean, that was our top battle. There were some other good fights throughout the back end of the order too, but we just couldn't look away from that. It was just such an awesome scrap, and I can't wait to see what race 2 has to offer.
Oh, well, race 2 is going to probably deliver very much the same. We do know there's a little twist with these ones. We do get the top 10 will reverse for race 2, so that's going to spice the action up even more than it was for race 1. But the racing up and down throughout this field was absolutely incredible. And that little run that we saw with Gary Cousins and Dave Miller, 0.04 between them. Sorry, 0.04, yeah, between those 2 across the line. So absolutely nothing in it between those 2 Porsches.
Yeah, hundredths of a second separated those 2 with a lovely drag race to the line. Now, I thought that was going to occur for our leaders, but nevertheless, it is time to look at our final race results. Wallace wins race number 1 ahead of Craig Edwards. Only 0.2 of a second at the end of the day. It was a drag race to the line, wasn't it? And they were joined by Danny Davison, who came home in the 3rd position. Adam Gardner just peeled off that lead group in the closing stages. The Mach 1 Esports driver ended up in 4th in the BMW. And Clark ended up repassing Cousins there. and claimed the 5th position. So something went wrong there for Gary Cousins. Or did I get those positions wrong, I think, Daniel? Is that correct? I think Cousins was battling out with Miller. So excuse me on that. That was Cousins ahead of Miller there at the end of the day for 6th and 7th. Chad Hearn, 8th at the end of the day. The other Mach 1 Esports car, 3 Mach 1 Esports car in the top 10. Lattimore rounded out the field for the top 11. He was the first driver out of that top 10, so he will miss out on reverse pole. That will go to Timothy Phoeben for race number 2 coming up after the break. Martin Crisp back Gallo right behind, and we cycle through the order looking for Damon Mulqueen. There he is, 18th, right there at the bottom of the screen. Matt Allison, after his penalty, ended up behind Scott Gamble. Not sure if Scott Gamble was streaming this race, but check out Scott Gamble. He does stream some events, of course, so always support your fellow sim racers. Benjamin Faulkner came home 24th, just ahead of Andrew Malcolm, and we didn't see much of Jackson Walls, but he had some issues, of course, after we saw him in P13, so he's fell down the order all the way to 28th, Jackson Walls. Wasn't the best of events for him, and of course on the opening lap, or in the opening few laps, we saw what happened to Harley Haber. And unfortunately, Daniel, that means for Harley, we hope he attends race 2, but he's going to have to start all the way at the back of the pack.
Yeah, that's a hard slog to come from the back of the pack, especially in a field as competitive as this. But if anyone can do it, no doubt Harley has the skill set to be able to get back up there in that Mach 1 Esports Porsche. And I think that'll certainly put on a real fight for the guys later.
And it's time to speak to Justin Wallace, who came home first for race number 1. And goodness gracious, Justin, I mean, we're out of breath here. I'm not sure how you are in the cockpit. That was a thrilling race between the top 3.
Yeah, that was awesome. Only 20 minutes, but I'm buggered already. So that was a good little battle with Craig and Danny. So, yeah, that was.
And we saw that Craig was in the Ford, so we were thinking, were you able to get past him that easily? Because the Ford has that straight line speed, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was really trying to get him get a good run out of MG, and he always just seemed to have that little bit of edge, and I couldn't get close enough. And then the one I got him on, I got a really good run and got up the draft, and yeah, got ready.
And going into race 2 now, you're going to start from the 10th position. And we saw what happened to a few other drivers in the midst of the mid-pack, and this is something that's going to be a bit more nerve-wracking to you than having some clear air up ahead of you.
Yeah, back in the pack, it's always a bit more dangerous, but the Porsche, it feels really good around here, so hopefully I can get some good runs and get some moves done.
Yeah, we'll leave you to it then. We'll hopefully see you at the end of race 2. We've seen, we saw Josh Rogers, didn't we, in the Porsche Esports Super Cup make his way from 8th to 1st, didn't he, at Monza? So if he can do it, Justin Wallace can do it. How about that?
Yeah, I'll take it. We'll see how we go.
We'll leave Justin to it. We'll drag in Craig Edwards, Daniel, in a second. Here he is, and Craig Edwards will be stood alongside Daniel Leet.
Yeah, g'day Craig. Fantastic run there, mate. You kept us on the edge of our seats throughout that race. Yourself and Justin Wallace going very, very hard. How'd you find it?
Yeah, I was on the edge of my seat too. My car was trying to kill me the whole race. No, but it was really great fun battling there with Justin and Danny. Lots of back and forth there, and the car's actually really well balanced performance-wise around this circuit.
Yeah, it looked like once you're able to get out front for a little bit, you had were able to get some really good drives, especially out of turn 4 and that final run through turn 12. And Justin just got you pipped a couple of laps before the end there, and then you had Danny Davison right up behind you. I think everything was going.
Yeah, it was on for young and old, pretty much. A little bit disappointed to get done there right near the end. Just got a little bit of a wobble coming through 11 that particular lap, when, as you said, all my exits prior to that had been keeping Justin.
Yeah, it looked like he, both yourself and him, I mean, you went very hard for him to try and go through around the outside through turn 1, and unfortunately that sort of opens up the door for turn 2 there. But obviously now we reset, move on to race 2, starting out of the 9th position with the reverse grid for race 2. Is there anything that you're going to be looking forward to try and get yourself back up to the pointy end as fast as possible?
Yeah, just try and keep my nose clean, make a few moves and see how far up I can get.
Fantastic, Craig. Well, we'll let you go reset, get ready for race 2, mate, and hopefully we'll see you back up for after another great.
Yep, fingers crossed. Thanks very much.
So that was Craig Edwards, who came home second. He'll be looking forward to hopefully claiming the top step of the podium here in the reverse grid format. That race number 2 is coming up shortly. Don't leave us. You're watching Season 9, Round 6 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
Coming for a splash. Three, two, one, now. All clear. Punch it. Great job. You did really well.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Welcome back. This is race number 2 about to commence for the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series on this lovely cold Sunday evening in Melbourne, Victoria. Now, if you're new to the series, of course, this is our sprint format. It includes 2 20-minute sprint races. No pit stop will be required, and as we just finished a thrilling race 1, it's going to be even better with a reverse grid format for our top 10 in race number 2. Jonathan Simon in the commentary booth. Daniel Leet is alongside me, and the brilliant Samuli Kumar behind the scenes in production. Now, Daniel, we're talking about next week's circuit. We head to Le Mans. It's a good chance to preview Le Mans just before race 2 commences, and that's going to be 90 minutes, 2 mandatory pit stops, and one of those pit stops requires 4 tires. It's the complete opposite race format to what we're getting today.
Yeah, completely different change around. We have done one 90-minute already. That was a couple of weeks ago down at Circuit of the Americas, and again, the racing out there was quite good. A lot of strategy came into that one, and I expect we're probably going to see a lot of similar stuff with the guys looking to decide when they want to take tyres and whatnot. The big key for Le Mans, especially with those long straights, though, is do you try and work with your teammates, pit all together, and keep up the draft as much as possible?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be key. This is Martin Crisp on screen. Now, he'll be looking at, or he'll be gunning for a better result in race number 2. But we know the reverse top 10 is going to occur, Daniel. So what does that say for you? What's the storylines now heading into race 2 with the reverse top 10? Is it about watching the leaders make their way through the field, or is it watching out for a new winner possibly in race 2?
Look, I think we're probably going to be up for potential for a new winner, knowing how good these guys were. I mean, we didn't get to cover it a lot, but that second group battling with Gary Clark, Dave Miller, Chad Hearn, Rob Gray were not separated by a lot at the back end of race 1, and they're going to be a little further up the order, obviously, with the reverse grid for race 2. So look for those guys to continue on a solid fight. But that being said, especially with Monza race 2 with the reverse grid there, we had another win, I believe it was, with Craig Edwards. He actually struggled a little bit coming back through that field, so potentially could happen again tonight.
And this is Jackson Walls. Now, Jackson Walls was in 13th at best at one stage. Now, we fell down the order, and we're unsure what happened to Jackson Walls. It will be nice to see if he's watching this post-broadcast. Feel free to fill us in on the information, Jackson. But he has a car 138. Now, what that means is every car is ranked based on their license. Any driver who has number 1 at the beginning, as Walls for some reason practicing a pit entry here. There's no pit stops required, mate. And thank God, because he's made a mockery of that, Daniel. He's obviously a rookie driver with a number 1 to his name.
Yeah, a bit of an awkward stop there. Luckily, doesn't need to repeat that again under racing conditions, unless there is a penalty, which we hope doesn't come his way there. But as you say, the change in number structure within the categories certainly helps really denote the different drivers, especially as the new guys come in, work their way up through this.
Chad Hearn going through the southern loop, and well, he's vanished because we're heading straight to the race here. Another 20 minutes of action coming up. It's going to be a rolling start. Time to look at your grid for today's second race. So it's a reverse top 10. Timothy Phoeben, who finished 10th in race 1, will start on pole alongside Rob Gray for Flying Giraffe Motorsports. Chad Hearn in the Mach 1 Esports car will start on the second row with David Miller. Now you can see the top 10 flips. So Wallace will start from 10th. Unfortunately for Stephen Lattimore and Martin Crisp, they will start outside the top 10. We cycle through to the rest of the order behind Martin Crisp, and it includes the likes of Pat Gallo. How about Damon Mulqueen from the 18th position? Now, Johannes Koch there for DPR Racing here, Daniel. He's now has a new teammate alongside him, of course. And would you like to give more information about that?
Yeah, he does have a new teammate in the form of, let me grab the name here. Where did I see it? Actually, I'll come back to that one. But yes, he does have a new teammate out there. And
we both lost it. We both lost it, man. Oh, no. Who was it, Samuli? Sorry? Jason Walls. Okay. Jackson Walls, sorry. Oh, yeah, we saw Jackson before. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, that was it. So, Daniel, that's going to be on the blooper reel for sure. I was like, I had it up on me, and I think I like closed the screen where I wrote it down or something like that. But we cycled through the rest of the grid. There's Jackson Walls down the order, starting from 28th. Now, of course, Ryan Kolstad, race control, just listed there to be in the server. Kester Mack, pace car driver, in 37th. So we have 35 cars racing. And I don't see Harley Haber, unfortunately.
No, it doesn't look like Haber's actually come back in for this second one. Unfortunately, he got turned around and hit by a couple of cars down in Honda Corner there in the first opening couple of laps. A little unfortunate we don't get to see him come back out and really show what he can actually do in these cars. I have no doubt that we will see him further out throughout the series, and he'll put on other fantastic shows. That just a little unfortunate for tonight for him.
Got a very unique name, Harley Haber. It's hard to forget. There are the track details, the weather details up on screen. Now it's 7 p.m. local time. It's actually 7 p.m. I think where Scott Newton is, isn't it, in Perth? Daniel, I assume. Close to it.
Yeah, I think pretty close from memory. Unfortunately, Scott not able to attend tonight. He's in the middle of another race for the OEC, but wishing him all the best, but we will see him back again next week. But yeah, it's interesting for the guys that are racing all the way between Queensland, New South Wales, and actually all the states in Australia at the time difference.
And slightly less windy compared to race 1. You can see the track temps and ambient very similar to race number 1 itself. So conditions similar. Let's see if the racing is similar. It was a very thrilling first race. It ended up being a grandstand finish, didn't it, at the end of the day? And now these drivers are ready to commence another 20 minutes of pure racing display here from the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. This track hosting MotoGP in the past, some supercars round. Was it Formula S5000 or whatever it's called the other week as well? A new open wheel series that included Rubens Barrichello, also an Avid iRacing member. Now, though, it's going to host the final race of 2 here for the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series for round 6. It's up to Timothy Phoeben to floor it. He does already. We go green here as the drivers fly through the Gardner Straight for the first time.
Yeah, Phoeben with a great jump off the line. Left Rob Gray a little napping there in that flying draft car. Will actually come under pressure there. He's got Chad Hearn down the inside of him. And the guys going 2 and 3 wide down into turn.
Oh, off camber there is Hearn. Is he off the racetrack? It was difficult to see. Now he's going to be alongside Rob Gray, who reclaims that second position. The Ferrari versus the Porsche. They've got a few mad scrambling Porsches behind. And now they head into Honda Corner. This could always end in some turmoil. We saw what happened to Harley Haber in race 1. Brilliant racing action between these guys. Plenty of room given.
Yeah, Gray just opening the wheel up a little bit there. Does come back under him through turn number 6 out of Siberia. Gets the run done back into second spot. But these guys are pushing extremely hard. But what they have done with this fight is let Tim Phoeben get away. That gap up front, 2.2 seconds already. And he is flying out.
For Lattimore, he remains in 10th. Danny Davison past Adam Gardner here. Now he may repass. Davison, 2 positions here. We could make his way past Jeremy Clark up ahead in that Ryan Sim Racing car. Now the car number there is 755, under investigation here on lap 1. That was Dave Clements. Dave Clements is in the last position at the moment. So unfortunately, looks like it could be a double whammy if race control have found him at fault.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that as it comes to hand. We're not too sure what was the cause of that. Race number 2, second position, Craig Edwards, just up on screen now. He's got Justin Wallace right behind them. These guys working on the back of Adam Gardner for the 7th position as they run out of turn 2 in single file down through turn 3, and might even see some moves here for Wallace. He's right up on the back of that Ford down into turn 4. Trying to go the long way down the outside.
Oh, no. Oh, no. That's Jeremy Clark turned around in the Porsche.
Yeah, Danny Davison involved in that as well. We'll have to keep an eye to see whether there's a penalty involved as a result of that as well.
Oh, I mean, I'd love to see a replay of that later, but it looks like a drive-through penalty's been given to Dave Clements. But, I mean, I don't know. He had to pick up the inside. Do you think maybe... Is it too early to judge? Here's the replay. This will help us, but... Oh, this is Dave Clements, actually. So this is what happened on lap 1, Daniel.
And Clements down hard on the inside. Looks like we lost him there a little bit under netcode, so I'm not too sure what's happened. That could be a connection issue.
Yeah, so Dave Clements there with some severe issues, of course, as we know. And now we watch him through the final sector, nevertheless. He's all the way down in the last positions. Now, Matt Morris up on screen here. Matt Morris is in 14th for VMMR, and we've seen some better races from Matt Morris, but these sprint race formats maybe don't suit him as well.
Yeah, Morris was involved in that earlier incident in race 1 there. He's fighting back through the field, back in 15th spot now, up 5 from where he started. So trying to get on with it in the Porsche there and doing a pretty good run, but a little bit of congestion just up in front there, and he's got a lot of work ahead of him if he wants to get back up inside that top 10.
And he makes his way through. He's got Simon Lada behind in the Riot Sim Racing BMW. So in your top 10, Fabian has a comfortable 2-second lead over Rob Gray in the Porsche. And this is going to help Fabian because I really think Fabian's got... I mean, I don't want to call it early here, Daniel, but this is the perfect start for Timothy Fabian for the leader. He's just already driving well. And I believe for him, if he sustains this lead, I mean, there's no one really to challenge him behind. I don't think Rob Gray can match him on pace.
No, I think Rob's maybe falling off a little bit there as we see Danny Davison down the lane after that earlier contact. But Tim Fabian doing everything right out front. Last time by was a 1:24.1, so not too far off his personal best at the moment. But we saw at the back end of race 1, those BMWs coming in very strong with the tyres as well. So we'll look to keep to see those guys come through. A little bit more of a battle further back. Dave Miller. He's got Adam Gardner and Craig Edwards not too far behind. These guys scrapping over the 4th spot right behind them as well. Justin Wallace in that Porsche as we see Adam Gardner not quite able to get the move done on Miller, but pushing very hard at the moment.
Yeah, this is through Siberia, the middle sector. Miller looking for the 3rd position on Chad Hearn. Oh, and he might have... Gardner looking for Miller here for P4, I should say. Gardner through... the hay shed. Oh man, he's not going to make this move into Lukey Heights. He is the BMW driver of Adam Gardner. And oh goodness, this is a multitude of leaders swamping David Miller here in the Redback Racing Porsche. How about Edwards to add to the fight? What about Justin Wallace behind? Gardner in the Mach 1 Esports car is the only one to make his way through for the moment.
Yeah, it was an extremely forceful move there by Gardner, pushing wide in through turn 9. And just shutting the door. I thought he might have almost got clipped on the run into 10 as we see Edwards strongly down the inside, and he should get this move done down into turn 1. But look at Wallace just closing in on the back of Miller there in the other. Wallace not quite able to get a move done. He's also got Steve Lattimore just behind him in another Ford. And we'll look to keep an eye here with Wallace down on the run into turn 4. The Honda hairpin then just tucking in for the draft, goes down the inside. I don't know whether he'll get this one stopped in time, and sits just on the inside. That's really opened the door up, but he will probably drop back in down into 7th spot there on the run back through Siberia, but hangs it on the outside. Not a spot where you really see it a lot.
Certainly not. They're still going to be alongside here. Wallace and Edwards. No, excuse me, sorry, Wallace and Miller. Miller will slot in behind Justin Wallace, and he's lost, 3 positions in a lap already?
Yeah, 3 in a lap. That was a strong move there from Wallace to go around the outside and retain that. We'll keep an eye with Miller just to see whether he's having any issues on that car, but now he's also going to have another race on his car behind him. It's the form of Steve Lattimore there. And not too far behind them, you've got Gary Cousins as well in a Porsche, also for the Aussie Sim Racers group as well. So keep an eye on those guys. We didn't get a lot of action from Gary Cousins, but we got Jackson Wall also in a big incident. Where's that? On turn 11.
Yeah, not the best day for Jackson Walls. He had an incident in race 1 that kept him out of the top 15, and now in race 2, things are just getting ever worse for him, and not his best start for the driver, I think, in his first race for DPI Racing.
Yeah, he's a new signing to DPR, but looks like a couple of other guys going off there. It's a little unfortunate for him. We'll keep an eye to see what race control has to say about that one, but looks like all these guys getting back on track.
Now back to live pictures. This is Timothy Phoeben in the lead. Phoeben, who's got a 2-second advantage here on Rob Gray. Now Rob Gray's peeled that gap back by just a touch, by about 0.2 in the past, past 4 minutes. At this rate, it's not enough, of course, for Rob Gray. So he's going to have to just find that extra bit of oomph. But I don't know. Which car would you rather be in this situation, Daniel? The BMW or the Porsche?
Look, I think knowing how good the BMW is on its tyres, I'd probably opt for that car, especially if you've got a lead up front. If you're in some close quarter action, though, I think it's a bit of a mix between really the Porsche or the Ford for what's the best there. The Ferrari, while we haven't seen a lot of it so far this race, up the front at the pointy end, we see Adam Gardner coming under all sorts of fire here from Craig Edwards behind as the guys work their way down through turns 1 and 2. Edwards not getting that move done, but tucks in nicely for the run up through to turn 4.
Yep, need a good switch back here coming out of the southern loop, and Edwards doesn't use the draft there of Gardner. Gardner just opts for a bit of an outside line. He's already on the defensive as Adam Gardner, and just slows it down in time for the apex. I was getting a bit nerve-wracking there from the Mach 1 Esports driver, but he just had a slight lock-up. You saw the smoke just poof up into the air, but for Gardner, I don't know if that was brilliant defensive driving, but he kept the position, so you could say it was at least good.
Well, he's done what he needed to do to retain that, but it's certainly going to make it hard there for Edwards. You see the BMW with a big slide up through turn 9, and he's gone very, very...
And contact between the two, Edwards and Gardner. And, I mean, I don't know, Daniel, there. I mean, Gardner did get a little bit loose, but it just caused a bit of chaos, didn't it? And where is Gardner right now? I can't even... Where is he on the timing screens? I can't see him. Am I missing him? I might be late spotting his name.
No, he's dropped down to 15 behind Johannes Koch there, so dropped a long way down. I don't really think Edwards had anywhere that he could have gone as a result of that, because he left plenty of room, as we see the onboard here, and goes wide to try and avoid it, and then just gets run out of room there. So I think that's an unfortunate error there. I think that'll probably come down racing incident or potentially a drive-through there, but we'll again wait to see what race control have to say regarding that one.
Yeah, unfortunate there for the likes of Craig Edwards, who was right behind Gardner. Drove pretty well, of course, too. He forced Gardner under, 2 errors there in the space of a lap, and he pulled off every trick in the book to overtake him, and unfortunately, he just couldn't get past at the end of the day.
Yeah, a little unfortunate there. I don't think, though, there was any intent from Gardner to try and spear him off there, but it's a little unfortunate. And we said earlier on, speaking of Craig Edwards, he was really struggling with that Ford, and could be a similar issue for Gardner there.
Pat Gallo on screen. Simon Larder is falling down the order. What's happened to the Riot Sim Racing driver?
I think he might have been involved in some contact there. Matt Morris was all off the circuit as well, and came back very late, so we'll see what happens there. Lee Vandenberg running off as well, car 353 getting a drive-through penalty as well, so we'll get that's Hayden Veld going to have to come down for an unsafe re-entry, so we'll look to see him come in momentarily as well for him. So here he is, Hayden Veld down the lane serving that penalty. It's a slow drive through here. I think he's actually called it quits for the night, so that will drop Hayden Veld out of this one. Back up on screen, Johannes Koch sitting in 13th. He's got Adam Gardner coming back up the field. We saw Adam have that spin earlier on and getting back up there. And these guys are going to be in a pretty strong little tussle as they are, again, working on the back of Mulqueen. Matt Morris just ahead of this little group as well. Getting through on Mulqueen there, who runs very wide on the exit of Siberia. Actually drops quite a few spots. That will open the door a bit for Matty Morris to get through. We'll see how he goes. Should be able to clear on. We've got 12.5 minutes still left in this fight. Adam Gardner sitting down now in the 13th after his earlier spin. Coming back through the field there with Johannes Koch just in front in that BMW, doing a good job to get away at the moment. The lap times for both those two pretty consistent, it must be said. Not a lot in it, both around the 124s. And you see here Koch up 5 positions from where he started. That spin really hurt Gardner, down 6.
Have a look at Gardner though. Straight up the inside here into turn 1. That's Gardner now trying to make amends for that crash earlier on with Craig Edwards. But Johan's driven well, hasn't he, for DPI Racing? If you need a team and you're a privateer, maybe give Johannes or even Jackson Walls a call after this race.
Well, yeah, the guys are putting on a fantastic effort. We saw that last time out at Coda, and again, seeing it here again tonight. So DPI definitely on the up and up. It must.
And through Honda Corner they go. I think they'll be okay for the moment. This is Simon Larder on screen. And a good move there on Aaron Specchio, the privateer. Simon Larder past Aaron Specchio. Specchio is up 15 positions from his starting spot. I don't think this race is even a race of attrition so far. I think he's just earned that.
Yeah, he's driven fantastically well. He did have some issues early on in race 1, which did set him back a long way, but he's just pushing on fantastically well. Got Jackson Walls just behind him there, and Jackson trying to go down the inside. That's a big move, not able to come off down the inside. But for those who have heard the name Jackson Walls before, he does race in the Aussie Formula 4 and Asian Formula 3 series as well, so certainly a guy with plenty of real-world racing experience.
Yeah, it's always nice to see real-world talent heading to the sim world. And we're watching Walls on screen at the moment. He's this is going to be a tough fight heading into turn 1. Oh, there's contact and Walls is off the racetrack. This is going to be a very tough rejoin, and he misses a southern loop by a country mile.
Yeah, very close not to run into, I think that was Jeremy Clark there coming through. Lucky for those guys not to get involved in anything, but Wall now finds himself well down the order. He's got Ben Faulkner there alongside him. They're dropped all the way down into 24th and 25th spot.
Yeah, well, Gardner now on screen. Let's see how Gardner can make his race just that slight bit better. He made his way past the DPI Racing car behind just a lap ago. Up ahead, Matt Morris is all over the rear end of Nick Sanfilippo. Now, if you're wondering what's happening to Timothy Fabian in the lead, you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. He's just remained untouched this entire race. Now, Chad Hearns made his way past Rob Gray there, Daniel. So Rob Gray now demoted to 3rd.
Yeah, Gray had a little bit of an issue a couple of laps back down through Lukey Heights there, went very slow and did drop a spot. But check out who's sitting in 4th position at the moment, Justin Wallace, race 1 winner. He's been able to get up through the field exceptionally well and actually cleared out a little bit from Craig Edwards, currently down in the 8th position. We do know Edwards had that little bit of an issue earlier on as Nick Sanfilippo very wide and into the world through turn 2.
And Wallace is actually half a second quicker as we watch Sanfilippo still have issues. This is Chris Pellett now, the Pulse Racing Team driver. But for Wallace, yeah, he is about half a second quicker than Hearn and Gray, just a few tenths quicker than Fabian. So I think realistically, he could even end up back in 2nd.
Well, there's not much between 1st and 4th at the moment. There's only about 2 seconds in it. As you see, Wallace coming up fast on the back of Rob Gray and that flying.
No! Oh, sorry. And that was Rob Gray completely losing it. Straight into the front of Justin Wallace. And now that's demoted Wallace. Oh, Timothy Fabian. What's gone wrong for Timothy Fabian?
Yeah, Fabian, big incident. And look who's jumping back up that order. Craig Edwards. Craig Edwards up into the 5th now as a result.
So at the exact same time, we've had a spin here for Timothy Fabian. We've had issues for Rob Gray and Justin Wallace. Those were 3 drivers in your top 4. And out of nowhere, Fabian just lost it all on his own in the lead. Goodness gracious. Guess who's in 1st place now? It's the Ferrari of Chad Hearn.
Yeah, it's going to be a big run for Chad now. Finds himself out front, another one of the Mark 1 cars up front with the demise of Tim Phoeben there, but great to see them still up on the screen. Steve Lattimore jumps into the second now, and Dave Miller, who we saw having a big scrap earlier on, sitting up in third. So a few guys moving up the order, but yeah, very, very interesting couple of laps.
Oh man, I mean, we can't even call Chad Hearn winning this race because you just never know in these closing stages. So it's Hearn from Lattimore from Miller. Gary Cousins in fourth. Good event for Gary Cousins. Craig Webber in fifth. Goodness gracious, this. I'm officially, that was proper Murray Walker there, Daniel. I'm officially lost for words. I don't know what's going on at the moment now with that, with this race so far, because this is not the top 10 I remember seeing just a minute ago.
No, not at all. I think most of these guys, especially Tim Phoeben, would have been really wishing this was a 15-minute race there. He would have come home very nicely, but as a result of that spin, drops him well down the order here. But look at Craig Edwards up on the back of Gary Cousins. Gary's going to go very defensive, knowing how good a racer Gary is, but he won't do it dangerously. He'll make Edwards really work for this move as Edwards down the inside, promotes himself up into the fourth spot now, and he's going to set his eyes firmly onto Dave Miller just in front.
It's important for Edwards in the Ford. It'd be tough calculating the overall winner for both races for points, but you'd have to say it will go to Craig Edwards, correct?
I think based on where he's sitting at the moment, you'd have to put Craig Edwards in with a shot of taking this one. See some battling a little further back. Scotty Gamble in here working on the back. Oh, actually, he's got Simon Lada, Jeremy Clark and Aaron Specchio all getting involved in this scrap. This is a fantastic little battle here for the monoplate.
Yeah, Gamble there, who, he's trying to be passed around the outside here by Simon Lada in the BMW. Gamble will remain in 18th in that JP Simshed car. Now, haven't seen much from Race Control since the early laps, which is good to see. Of course, Race Control sponsored by Harvey Bay Auto Glass for this season, but I don't know, will they have a look at the Rob Gray, Justin Wallace incident?
I think they'll have to. I don't think it'll be anything serious. I think probably going to be a racing incident there, because it looked like Gray caught the outside edge and then just spun across the front of Wallace there, as we see Spaccio getting involved in an incident with the BMW of, I think that's Martin Casey, actually Simon Lada at the right racing car, so that's potentially going to catch the eye of Race Control as well.
And we've begun the final lap of the race. Chad Hearn has got one hand on the trophy, but you never know. We'll wait and see until he crosses the line. But for Hearn, who started this race from third, obviously finished 8th in race 1, so was able to get a good starting spot from the reverse grid format. For Lattimore, who missed out on reverse pole, still a good result for him nevertheless, but still a lot of racing going on for the moment right now. I see a spinner and a 4, that's Scott Gamble in the southern loop. This is off camera now. Now we see it on screen.
Yeah, it's a hard one for Scotty Gamble there. We'll see if we can get a replay of that one up. See Lada working in the Porsche there. He's right up behind Casey and Specchio as these guys are working their way down through Siberia, getting a run out. Lada with a fantastic drive in that bin.
Brilliant stuff for Lada. We'll keep an eye on that, but we'll also keep an eye on Chad Hearn. He's about to cross the line, and he will win race 2 here for round 6 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series. Lattimore will join him on the podium. And what about David Miller? After being demoted by an abundance of leaders, he still somehow finds his way onto that final step of the podium. But we're still racing here down the back end of the order. It's still tight between a few drivers at the end of the day. But Specchio, I think, remains behind Lada.
Yeah, Lada will come across the line there in the 20th, Specchio 19th. So Specchio 20th, Malcolm down in 19th, and racing maybe a little bit quieter than what we saw in race 1, but still some fantastic action all the way through.
But for Lattimore, I mean, brilliant victory for Chad Hearn, like we said, for the Mach 1 Esports driver. But for Lattimore to miss out on reverse pole and have the race go your way in number 2, I can't wait to speak to him in... Oh, you're going to speak to him in post-race interviews?
Yeah, certainly looking forward to that. I think he will be extremely excited with that. As we say, up 10 spots from where he started. That's a huge drive in the second race.
And we've almost got every driver coming through the field right now. Chad Hearn, and the Ferrari, like we said, I want to hopefully see him do burnouts when you pull into the pits. He'll be a lot more respectful, of course. Some series, Daniel, do allow drivers to celebrate.
Yeah, I think it's great to see that. Some of the guys here probably looking just to get out of these cars. It's a very stressful 20 minutes, even though it is a short race with the quality of the action out here tonight. And we spoke about it, race one, all these guys would have been up on their seats. The white knuckle fever, as they're all battling around so close, they'll be very, very eager to get out, take a couple of minutes and go.
So now it's time to look at our final race results. Chad Hearn, what a victory that was. It wasn't Stephen Bradbury, but it was close to it. The Mach 1 Esports driver brings that Ferrari home on the top step of the podium. Lattimore from 11th, missed out on reverse pole like we said, and only a second behind a win. That would have been a very valiant victory had he been able to pull it off. The Race on Oz driver, his teammate Justin Wallace, could have potentially been up there for the second position, but Wallace, after that late race incident with Rob Gray, they ended up 6th and 9th, respectively. Some other notable names, David Miller on the podium, Craig Edwards right behind, of course, in the reverse grid format. Pat Gallo started outside the top 10. He ended up there, as you can see, in the 7th position in the 777 car. That's not Illuminati for anybody, of course. That is just a coincidence. Although you never know, Pat Gallo. If you want to reveal something, mate, feel free to tell us. But at the end of the day, Johan Skok for DPR Racing, the first DPR Racing car, ended up outside the top 10. Didn't see much of Damon Mulqueen today, but had a respectable result in 12th. But what could have been for Timothy Phoeben, one Mach 1 Esports driver wins. The other teammate should have won, could have won, but he'll be lamenting that late race mistake, just getting on the traction. And that is what this Sunday night series is all about in the GTs. Fixed setup, trying to just improve your skills here on a Sunday night. And race control there, sponsored by Harvey Bay Autoglass, to keep all the racing action and all the racing respectfully, of course. Then we cycle through the rest of the results. Any other notable names you see here, Daniel, down the order? I see Martin Casey, Scott Gamble down 22nd, 24th. What happened to Jackson? Lee Vandenberg, didn't he qualify in the top 10?
Yeah, well, looking where Lee finished earlier on, he was well up the field, or should have been well up the field. I think had a little bit of issue there. Matt Allison, well down. We do know he had some issues, especially race one. Dave Clement was involved through a drive-through penalty. Actually managed to come back home in the 27th spot. So after dropping all the way down, did get himself up a little bit further. But yeah, a few guys probably really disappointed with the run tonight, and will now turn the attention forward and get ready for Le Mans next week.
Most certainly. And into Le Mans next week, like we said, Daniel, it's going to be a much different event to Phillip Island. Longer racetrack, longer event, more pit stops available, a lot more to practice.
Well, yeah, it is a lot more. I think it's really going to probably play into the strengths of the likes of the Ford, the Ferrari as well. We know how quick those two cars can be. I think the BMW could be the surprise package, though, knowing how good it is on its tyres.
Yeah, so that'll be something to look out for sure. Now, we have our first post-race interview for the day. It's our second placed Stephen Lattimore, who stood alongside Daniel Leet.
Hey, fellas.
G'day, Steve. Congratulations, mate, on the second placing for race 2 tonight. It was a fantastic effort out there from you. You must have been really getting excited there with a couple of the guys going off early.
Yeah, the one came off, and next thing you know, it was like a domino effect, and the guys just kept on going left, right, and centre. Managed to avoid the whole drama, and it came out second. I was quite surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I only just missed out on the what would have been provisional pole for race 2 with the reverse grid, starting out of 11th tonight. What were your thoughts going into that? Obviously, we know it's pretty challenging coming through the mid pack. Did you have any preconceived ideas of what you wanted to do getting?
No, I'd be happy with finishing 11th. To be honest, this car does not suit this track too well. I'm not a big fan of the track to begin with. But yeah, just try to keep it clean. Don't get caught up into any drama. And yeah, you know, I wasn't going to try to pressure Justin or Craig or anything like that. Just let them go do their things, and hopefully, as they cut through the traffic, I hopefully could follow them. And then yeah, if I make a position or two, yippee. But yeah, if not, no big deal. But it all went even better than that.
Well, that's it. I think one of the yourself were one of the biggest movers up through the field tonight. 10 spots to get yourself up into second place with a fantastic result, mate. Next week we move on to Le Mans, back to the 90-minute format that we saw a couple of weeks ago at Circuit of the Americas. How are you feeling about going to Le Mans, and what are your thoughts on the Ford and how strong it could potentially be?
Well, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Le Mans. It's always a good race. Good to have an enduro there. Last enduro I got disconnected on like lap 3 or 4 or something like that. So hopefully the internet holds on this time. The Ford should be quite strong down those nice long straights. It's going to be basically a draft game. If you stay in the draft, you should be able to drive away from people and have the advantage. But yeah, it's going to be looking after those tyres through the Porsche curbs and so forth, and yeah, hopefully do a nice long first stint and a couple of pit stops and sprint to the end.
Yeah, definitely. Well, mate, we'll certainly look forward to catching you out there for next week. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and a thanks to for helping you get this one complete?
Yeah, Harvey Bay Autoglass, Race on Oz, all the sponsors over there as well. You guys at ApexTV, ApexRacingTV, AMF for putting it on each and every week, and yeah, the whole team at Race on Oz who join and take part in this series and many other series over iRacing each and every week.
Fantastic, mate. Well, again, congratulations on second tonight, and we'll certainly look forward to catching up with you again next week out at Le Mans.
Okay, thanks, fellas.
All right.
So it is time now to speak to Chad Hearn, our race winner. And Chad, we saw one Mach 1 Esports driver of Timothy Phoeben just basically throw away a race victory. And ironically, and maybe gratefully for you, it hands it straight to you. That's a very weird way to win a race here in the Aussie Mixed Up Fixed GT Series.
I think for me to win in any circumstances would be quite odd. Even in the first race, it was just about keeping it clean and managed to finish quite well, I think around 8th. And then, going into the second race, it was just about keeping the car on the track. And it was pretty unfortunate that Tim had a spin up in front of us, but I suppose that's the way things go sometimes.
But for you, though, I mean, it's time to celebrate, right? I mean, I'm more of a, not to talk about myself too much, but I'm very level-headed, you know? If I win, I don't over-celebrate. If I lose, I don't put my head down too much. But for you, man, if you say it's very odd for yourself to be winning races, you should surely be celebrating this one.
I'm pretty pumped, but I'm probably keeping it under wraps a bit. But I'm sure there'll be a picture that's done for it, and I'll mount it on my wall. So I don't know when the next one will be. So I'll bask in the glory of it.
I'll grab that picture and hang it on my wall too for inspiration. How does that sound?
Yeah, one of those hang in there posters.
You're not close to it. How about one? It will be like next to Michael Schumacher, next to all the greats. Chad Hearn, Mach 1 Esports.
Yeah, I think you wouldn't be able to tell me apart from the others, I don't reckon.
Who gets it done for you from yourself and the Mach 1 Esports team?
Sorry, what was the question?
I was saying, who'd you like to thank? Who gets it done for you from the team?
Oh, yeah, great. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Comperte, as well as RMS, especially RMS, for powering this event each week for us. So, thanks to those guys. And thanks to the team and all the support that they give us as well, especially Mark Samuel and Dave Clements. Cheers.
Lovely. So Chad Hearn there with a brilliant victory. And Daniel, we will drag in David Miller now. And David Miller will be stood alongside Daniel Leap, my co-commentator, for the final interview of the day.
How he is?
Yeah, g'day, Dave. Congratulations, mate, on third tonight. Fantastic run in race 2. Found yourself similarly in race 1 with a fantastic battle with Gary Cousins. How was everything out there tonight?
Yeah, no, the Porsche went well. It was good. I don't know. Felt like I was getting swamped with some of these cars under the draft, but I couldn't keep up with them.
Yeah, well, we got a little bit of action up on screen at the moment when we saw Craig Edwards and Adam Gardner and the guys coming through earlier on through you. How did you find that, having to manage some of those quicker guys working their way through the...
It wasn't too bad. I knew Adam was coming. I moved over to let him go past, and they tried to tuck in behind him. But that forward down that straight, just that draft, he just flew past me.
Yeah, Ford's been a little bit of a surprise package throughout the season. This time, it's probably the preferred car, especially if you want to try and get around fast out here. But mate, fantastic run, jumping up again, as I say, 3 spots from race 1 to race 2. Next week, we move off to Le Mans circuit. I know you're reasonably familiar with, and the guys in Redback Racing certainly know how to get around. How are you looking forward to that one?
I'm actually really looking forward to that because we've done the 24-hour endurance in the Porsche, and we've done quite well in that. So it's just a matter of getting a handle of this setup around that circuit. That'll be good.
Yeah, definitely. I think looking at what the Porsche can do, especially on the long run, it's going to be in there for a great run, mate. But before we let you go and enjoy the third, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and thank?
Just big shout out to LeBlanc and Redback Racing.
Fantastic, Dave. Well, mate, congratulations again for tonight. Coming home in the 7th and 3rd spot in race 1 and 2. There's a fantastic run there for you, mate, and we'll certainly look forward to catching up with you next week out at Le Mans.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Thanks. See you.
Yeah.
So we'll leave both of those guys who came home in the 1st and 3rd positions respectively. But for Daniel, for us, we head to Le Mans next week, like we said, and we will look forward to that race in a week's time. It will be 90 minutes of action. It will commence at 9:45 a.m. GMT. That's 8:45 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So, of course, check your local time zones for more information on that. It will be our second of 3 endurance races for this season. The first one was at the Circuit of the Americas, of course. And the last one will take place at Montreal. Boy, I love Montreal. Can't wait for that one for round 10 on the 17th of November. But from us now, from Jonathan Simon, Daniel Lead alongside me in the commentary booth. How about Samuli Kumo in productions, filling in for Scott Newton, doing a splendid job behind the scenes on cameras, and the entire Apex Racing TV crew behind the scenes. We will say so long from Phillip Island.